Dustin is an amazing guy. As we like to joke, Chris, I've known him since the days of Google+. He is just someone that when you see the sort of stuff he puts out there, you listen. And so when I saw that he had started Magi, I was like, okay, I'm interested, and I have not been disappointed. As I even said, and maybe we'll make a T-shirt out of it, Dustin. But I'm Magi for life. I'm telling you.
Whoa,
yes.
Whoa. Okay, well, we're just going to, I can't do a better intro than that. Would you please welcome to Dealcasters, the one and only Dustin Stout. Dustin, welcome to that Magi for life, right? Oh,
glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
First time guest of the show. It's been a while. We've been hearing a lot about all the great things about Dustin Stout, and now this thing called Magi, which I really wanted to set the table for our listeners and our viewers, because I think many people think Magi.co is just another AI thing, right? It's just another generative platform where it does whatever you want it to do, put in prompts and whatnot. But it's not that, right? It's really a lot more. So I wanted to roll and set the table, and roll this over to you. If you're going to explain this to someone who thinks that it's just a generative AI platform like ChatGPT or like Runway or something like that, what is Magi?
Well, I think you did a great job. I don't know if I've done a better job than that than you did in your intro, but really it's just that. So there are a lot of AI tools out there, and right now we're in an AI arms race.
Yeah.
You got the open AIs of the world, the Googles of the world, the Metas, the Anthropics, all these companies, Runway, Midjourney, all these companies fighting to be the best of the best AI in their vertical, right? You got the text generators, the chatbots, and then you got the image generators, the video generators, the sound generators. It's an arms race. And in order to get the best of the best tools, like you said, you have to have 5, 6, 20 different subscriptions. And first of all, who has the sanity for that? Right? Just having to learn 20 different apps and manage content in 20 different places. And then on top of that, the financial burden of having to pay each subscription each and every month. No, what Magi does is we take this technology, these exact same apps that you would pay a monthly subscription for. We bring them into one platform, one united interface, so that you don't have to relearn a new interface every time you want to try a new chatbot. You can get ChatGPT, you can get Claude, Gemini, and Meta's AI, and a bunch of others right inside the same chat interface for one monthly price. And likewise, all the image generators. I think we have something like 9 or 10 different image generators at this point, maybe 12, if I remember correctly. It's a lot. We have a lot of them. And there are multiple reasons for this, really. It's not just the cost savings. It's not just the sanity of it all. But to be honest, we're all learning this stuff. Our entire culture of the human race is having to relearn things, how to use this new technology. And all of us were around during the Google transition, right? We knew what life was like before Google and what life was like after Google. The only way you learned how to use Google was using Google. Mm-hmm. And so the best part of Magi is, I think, the ability to experiment and explore all the best AI technologies from the comfort of one place. A new one comes out, Magi adds it, you get to try it. And so I think that more than anything, giving you the freedom to experiment and explore helps that learning curve shorten big time.
Yeah, I had actually wrote it down, Dustin. I don't know if I'm right, but I was like, at this moment in time, there were 15 image or video programs, I guess we'll call them, and 26 large language models, LLMs, on Magi. That may change by tomorrow, because that's one thing that I love. You're constantly updating, and then of course, I couldn't even tell you what probably 2/3 of them do, because it's just, like you said, it's so much, but I like that it's there. And, as you start educating the community more about how these things work, I think that also makes it comfortable for people that are just getting into this, because I think it's very important, to your point, AI is not going away. And I also love your description of this arms race, because, right, you're going to see companies come and go. I mean, it's fascinating, because I want to say we used it a while back, and maybe it's still around, but in a completely different format. And that was Jasper, right? Jasper was charging a ton of money to do that. And now you can do much more than Jasper just by, using Magi. I mean, what do you say to, I'm a business owner and I need to know, how should I get started with something like this? Because I think one of the things that I think, and we talked about this a little bit before, is I think people have to be careful about thinking oh, this is going to replace my workforce. I think it can enhance your workforce, but don't think, hey, this is just going to write stuff and we're going to make tons of money without any human interaction.
Yeah, I mean, so businesses love Magi. And the reason businesses love Magi is, again, going back to the savings, right? So we have team plans where you can start at as little as $29 a month and have up to 5 team members use Magi. That goes all the way to, I think our largest plan is 149, I believe, or 249. You can have up to 50 people in one team. So it doesn't have a per user pricing. Now we get into the enterprise plans. We do kind of do a per user pricing, but that's really just a matter of scalability for making sure everybody has the resources they need. But, businesses love Magi for that aspect, because again, they're not having to pay 5 subscriptions per employee.
Right.
They get everything in one. Billing is easy. IT teams love us because it's they don't have to manage all the accounts now, right? So, businesses love us. Any business who's looking to integrate AI should be using Magi as opposed to, all these other random subscriptions, because you get the most powerful AI models. There's nothing that ChatGPT can do that Magi can't do. And in some cases, Magi can do more. We have little tools and quality of life things built on top of this that was really born out of my frustration with ChatGPT and the limitations. So, really the best way for businesses to dive in, try Magi, get it for your team, and get it for all your employees. And it will be a much more cost effective and more less resource intensive in terms of managing the subscription and managing your team than any of the other apps out there.
Yeah, I mean, I got to be honest with you. At first, I thought there's got to be a catch. I totally did. I was like, okay,
that's Chris.
Where are you going to hit me? Where is this going to, it's going to hit me in the grapes at some point. I know there's got to be a catch. All these generative AI, all these image play, all these chat, all these things have their own subscription plans, right? And you get locked into them. And most people go monthly, right? Because even though it costs, it's more cost effective for you to get a yearly plan. Right. It's after 3 months, you realize I shouldn't have gotten this yearly plan, right? And so you end up cutting it. But all these things are, a la carte. You got to pay all of these things, and somehow you've cobbled them all together, right, into this, collectively smaller price. How on earth do you get away with it?
So it's funny you say that. I actually have some ads that I'm getting ready to test that are based on this series of TikTok videos that I've seen recently. Mm-hmm. And they all kind of start with, it's pretty much the same. 15 websites that feel illegal to know. So these ads that I have are it's just a quotation mark, is this legal?
Right.
Is this illegal to do? So here's the reality. It's actually not that complicated. So each of these companies that Magi integrates with has what's called an API. And that's just a technical term for one app being able to leverage something or use another app on your behalf. And so the way that these contracts that we have with these other companies, OpenAI and Anthropic and Google, is Magi is paying for the usage. So we're not paying a flat monthly fee to all these companies. We are paying based on how much we use them. So every time a user in Magi sends a message to GPT-4, we get charged for it. I get a bill at the end of the month for all these AI companies based on how much my users have used it. And that works out great for me because, I can kind of manage my costs. It works out great for the users because they get everything all in one place. And so the way that we sort of manage and don't go broke, right, is we put limitations on the usage. That's really what our plans are based around. The multiple different subscription tiers that we have are based on how much usage you get and how many team members or workspaces you get. And that's how we stay in business. And that's how we make it a win-win for everybody.
We'll get right back to the show, but first I wanted to tell you about Social Media News Live. Jeff C. and his amazing guests will keep you up to date on what's happening in this entire changing world of social media. They talk with industry experts and innovators and creators about the latest social media news, tips, and tactics, and they broadcast live, so you can ask the questions that matter most to you and your business. Jim and I love this show, and we know that you will too. Head over to socialmedianewslive.com. Hey, tell them Dealcasters sent you. Now back to the show. Right. So as I understand it, like Jim and I were talking a little bit about this morning because, with the show coming up, I started using it more and more and more. And then I was like, okay, I really do kind of like low key love this thing. And I'm starting to look at the usage rate and I start seeing going up. And I thought I had hit the level, and then when I went to go sort of what's called top up, I went over my plan. It was like all I got to do is pay $5, and then it unlocks an additional 10,000 words or whatever. On that. And I started to look, the more you use these things, the more you start to get comfortable and the more you start to understand, okay, you just can't go in here and just go rough shot and start throwing stuff in and start throwing things. Like you're gonna fill up you have to be a little more tactical about how you use this kind of stuff. Is each one of these platforms, is it the full enchilada of these particular platforms, or is it like a light, quote unquote, version of Leonardo, of all of these things?
It's a great question. So I really wanted to touch on this idea of topping off first because it's something I think a lot of people don't understand. So some people are under the false impression that when they go use ChatGPT or Claude, either of the two, that they can just use it unlimited. They can just use it all day, and they have no limitations. Well, the fact of the matter is they do have limitations. They're just not as upfront about it. So with ChatGPT, I believe it's if you're a Plus subscriber, you get 50 messages every 4 hours. So that means if you're really going to town and you spend an hour and you burn through all 50 messages and you're only halfway done with whatever work you're trying to get done, you hit your limit. And ChatGPT will tell you, sorry, you got to wait another 3 hours before you can use this again.
Oh, brutal.
And you have no upgrade path. There's no way to increase that limit. You simply have to wait. And that's a terrible position to be in if you're up against a deadline or if you really need to get something done. And let's say it's like 3:20 p.m., like it is here on the West Coast for me. And then you're telling me you have to wait 3 hours? Like, I'm not coming back to work at 6 o'clock. Like, that's just not going to happen. So it's going to have to wait till tomorrow, right? So with Magi, I wanted to make sure that users had options to upgrade. If they're in the middle of a piece of work and they hit that limit, $5 is all it takes to keep working. And for most people, for most business owners, it's like $5. Yeah, of course. This copy that I'm writing is going to make me $100,000. So we'll pay the $5 to top up. But also, having those extra plans. Your second question, are the models that we provide in Magi, are they a light version, or are they the same as you get? The answer is they are the exact same ones you would get in these native apps. And that's something that I'm very passionate about, and why I've built Magi in such a, the word that gets thrown around, it's very vanilla, in that it's not, it's straight from the pipe. So the GPT-4 that you get inside Magi is the same exact GPT-4 that comes out of ChatGPT. The Leonardo style options and models that you can get are the same exact ones that you would get if you were in the native app. Claude, Gem, all of them are exactly the same. It's a straight pipe, literally piping Magi, a straight line from them, from OpenAI or Claude, would have you straight into Magi for you. There's nothing, and that's what a lot of AI apps won't do. They want to sort of obfuscate what models they're actually using for you so that they can cut costs and use the cheaper ones and hope you don't notice. With Magi, we give you full control. You use whatever model you want to use, and we are not going to, cut any corners anywhere. It's completely up to you to which model you use.
Wow. I just don't know why more people don't do this. I mean, it's incredibly brilliant. No, it's like, for me, I think there's incredible value, and I know this isn't a technical term. I mean, aggregation is probably the technical term, but it's curation, right? So like, we all have access to, like, I equate everything to music. We have all this access. We have access to 150 million different songs, right? But what do? We go to a playlist that was created for us by someone who's an expert, right? So we still subscribe to this particular platform, but there is curation. There's an expert that's there that's kind of says, hey, I have this for you. But your example, what you're doing is you're saying, I have all of the music services right here, and I can just pull them all there together for you, and you only have to pay one price. It's just, to me, I think there's incredible value for someone, especially us and our audience, who are very curious solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business owners that are like, listen, I already pay for ChatGPT. I pay for this. I pay for this. I pay for this. Why should I pay for this? And for me, I just think like this to me is not just a cost savings, but the ability for us to be able to take something like this and then organize ourselves, right? So the other thing I wanted to kind of maybe pivot into, Dustin, was Magi has these other things where you can organize your chats, organize like your like, because you have all of these things going on, all of these multiple services that you have going on, you have this ability to keep everything in-house and organize them and pin some things and do some other things. Talk to us about the advantages there of being able to organize yourself within Magi.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an organization freak. I'm that guy who you open up my Mac Finder and you find very meticulous folder systems, a folder within a folder that's well labeled and they're all organized and they have a system to it, right? So I like to stay organized. And so when it came to chats, I was having dozens of conversations a day, dozens of different chats accomplishing different tasks, right? And they started to pile up really quickly. And the minute that I brought my team in, I wanted to make sure that I can direct them to where they need to go without them having to do a lot of finding and searching, right? So we gave the ability to put chats into folders and organize them that way. And furthermore, we actually have what's called workspaces. So if you have a side project and then your day job and then your personal life, you can actually split those up into different workspaces and keep them all separate, right? And because we have team collaboration, you can invite team members to certain workspaces and leave them off of other workspaces. So making it super easy to keep things organized so you can find it when you need it. We also have very powerful search and filtering, so you can search through all your content and find it quickly. But also, the organizational standpoint, your team can find it. Your team can add stuff to folders and you can kind of collaborate. Your team can jump into a chat right where you left off and continue going. You can go back and forth. So a lot of things with organization in mind and with collaboration in mind, and a small hint of my OCD needing to stay organized.
Well, but I think that was important because I remember, and that's how long ago it's been that I used ChatGPT, when I was paying for it, was it's like, it was really hard to stay organized, right? Because it's kind of like, all right, where was that message I was working on?
For
and so right
almost
away,
2 years, you couldn't even search through your chats. It took them 2 years to add that feature. We had it from day one.
We're going to get right back to the show, but first I wanted to introduce you to the amazing Cloudlifter CL1 from Cloud Microphones. This amazing little blue box boosts your dynamic podcast mic signal for pristine audio quality in just seconds. Jim and I love ours, and you can snag one of these CL1s or new Cloudlifter X's for yourself from the links in the show notes below. Elevate your audio content with the Cloudlifter. Now, back to the show.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love that. All right, this folder has got this project going and it's saving it. So it's not like I have to start over if I'm wanting to, do iterations on something to get a different result. And I just think that was brilliant. I love the copy and paste feature. Makes it really easy to turn it into a regular document and then, basically edit it in there, and you can share it. You can, put it in Google Docs or Word or PDFs, whatever you need to do. I mean, even the fact that you've got programs on there that will let you read documents and URLs, and I know that's one of the things you've talked about, Dustin. I mean, if somebody's just starting out, like I guess with these large language models, where would you tell them they should start? Because I think it's almost overwhelming, right? Because Google's got its thing. Facebook even, right? Mm-hmm. You can't even go on Facebook without it wanting you to use AI to search for stuff.
Yeah. I think the easiest place to start is just to start a new conversation, start a new chat, pick GPT-4. It's the easiest one to start with because it's the household name, right? Just pick GPT-4 and ask it. Start a conversation saying, here's what I need to accomplish today. List out your tasks. You could even take a screenshot of your task list. Say, here's what I need to accomplish today. Which of these things can you help me with? And start there. I actually did it as an exercise. I think last week, I took a screenshot of my to-do list and I was like, okay, which of these things can we work on right now? And it told me, it read the screenshot. It knew every task in that screenshot and was able to say, okay, we can accomplish this, this, and this. Which one do you want to start with? And I said, well, let's start with that one right there. And it did. And the thing about this, again, going back to this idea of like, we learned through doing, we learned how to Google by using Google. The more you use this, the more you realize you can use it for. And I think that's, again, exploration and just trying things out is the best way to learn.
Yeah, I love how you've got the personas that are built into it as well. So, I created a Chris Stone persona, very scary for me. And I also love, like, if your intention is to get found, there is an actual SEO content writer that is a persona that's built into this as well. So it's, for me, it was a little crazy to, start with a blank page, right? Like start feeding the information, act as a research writer. Here's all of my information. Here's this, that, and the other, like you said, start with GPT-4. And then it's got these selective personas that are here as well. Educational content creator, academic researcher, assistant, Bible scholar, brand voice generation, business advisor. There's all kinds of different things. And then when you select these personas, they're giving you different sort of responses based on that particular persona. When you get those things, I think the temptation is to go, wow, that took me 30 seconds and holy crap, I can just take that and now I have a blog post, or I can take that and now that's going to be my Instagram copy for this photo that I gave it, or this is going to be that, and I'm just going to copy paste. Let's talk a little bit about the human loop in this, and give me your thoughts on, obviously, AI is drinking water out of a fire hose right now. There's all kinds of people using it. There's things are swirling around. Everybody has this fear of missing out on all of these things. And so they want to just keep, doing all of the things. What is your take, Dustin, on the human involvement in a lot of this generative space. And I'm not just talking about the text-based stuff. I'm also talking about the image and video.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the models that are leading the way are extremely good at sounding human-like and responding in highly intelligent, thoughtful ways. But if you have any degree of domain expertise, if you are an expert copywriter and you have GPT-4 write you some marketing copy, you'll find out really quickly that it's not quite as good as you. And this, being a marketer for the last 15 years, I noticed that a lot. And so I think it's still at a point where you need a human in a loop. And you need to just make sure that you're checking everything it says, because we also know that AI tends to lie. It can confidently lie to you like nobody else. It will make some talk. So, you always want to fact check the things that it says, because it does have that tendency. So, it's up to you. Your reputation is on the line. So in my marketing agency days, when somebody would hire me as a ghostwriter and I would write these 2,000 word articles for them, their reputation was on the line. And so they didn't let me just write it and publish it. They had an editor or somebody who had to approve it, right? They had to look through that entire blog post, make sure it was in their brand voice, it sounded like them, right? And it represented all their values and all of the objectives, all the KPIs that they wanted. And then they published it. So I think in the same way, if we look at AI, these assistants or these bots, whatever you want to call them, if we look at them as an intern, you've just hired the world's most creative, smartest intern in the world, fastest intern in the world, who never gets tired. Even if that was a human intern, you would want to audit or approve their content before it goes out, right? You would view everything that they do for you with a bit of a critical eye. And I think that's what we need to keep in mind. Like, we should look at everything it produces critically, as if it were produced by somebody just out of college who is looking for their first gig.
Yeah, and because I think the temptation is like, oh my, look how much time this saved me. Mm-hmm. And if you do go back and fact check, you still are saving the time. You still are getting that creative thing. It's right. Like, don't just take it and rubber stamp the content and just slide it out, because your credibility is at risk when you do that. So take this stuff. I love how you said it. It just flat out lies. It's like,
honestly.
I look at it, especially the text-based stuff. I look at it as this was already created. So like when something gets spit out to me and I look at it, I'm like, oh, this looks really good. This looks almost like, like something I would have seen before. Well, that's because it probably has been put out there by somebody else, right?
Right.
So even if it's just like, read through it, I would not have said delve. I probably wouldn't have put a rocket emoji in there. I probably wouldn't have done this. I probably would compare Dustin to like the AI Jesus or I don't know, whatever. Like, add yourself into it. It's okay that even most of it is kind of already a framework for you. We do it already in like, utilizing things like Canva, right? Mm-hmm. Or a lot of the Adobe stuff. It's like, look, here's a template, here's a thumbnail. But like, if you just take the thumbnail and you just change the words on it, it's somebody else's stuff. And it's not going to resonate with people because it's been used before. And the algorithms on these platforms are probably not going to tap your stuff to get it seen more because it's already been used before as well, right?
Right. Yeah. And here's one thing I'll say to that end is there are some advanced techniques you can use to really get it to output content that sounds exactly like you would have written it. But it's not easy, right? It takes, you watch someone do it once and you can probably recreate it. I have one persona that I created recently with the help of Jeff Hunter. And if you haven't heard of Jeff Hunter, Google him. He's a phenomenal copywriter, really smart dude, brilliant marketer. With his help, I crafted a viral post persona that all I have to do is really describe what kind of social media posts I want to write about, give it the topic, give it some experience from my personal life, and in a single button, it produces it. And every single time, I almost don't have to edit anything. It might be a word or two, it might be a sentence that I remove. But that'll save me. And even if it's just a short post, social media post might take me 5 minutes to write, right? But with this, it took me 30 seconds, and then I had to edit out one sentence. So, may not be huge time savings, but any time savings can help. And, there are instances where if you create a persona that is, really well tuned and really well crafted, it can spit out things like a blog post that would need very minimal editing. For someone like me, writing a blog post is typically an 8 to 12 hour process. But with the help of AI, because I researched the heck out of it, I know way too much about SEO, but now that I have these personas, I can kind of step-by-step process through a blog post with the help of AI and get it done in under an hour.
That's crazy.
Dustin, yeah. And I think another thing too, that I think this is a difference with what Magi offers that maybe others don't think about, is one, we're talking about, right? The custom personas that you can save, but also even the prompts, right? It's like prompt engineering is, becoming a big thing where people like, well, what's the prompt I use? And we're able to save that as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can save your prompts inside of Magi. And then once you're in a chat, you can open up your little sidebar and have access to all the prompts you've saved. You can search through them, find them, and in a single click, add it to the input box and send it off.
What I found when I was creating some stuff in Magi, this is turning out to be quite the Magi commercial for you.
I feel guilty that I haven't paid to be here.
This is serious. There was this little thing, and I looked next to my prompt, and it had a little magic little thing, and I hovered over it, and it said enhance your prompt, and I clicked on it, and it like turned my prompt into some, like, as if an English lord had said, now it will create something even more magically delicious for your fans.
And see,
We're going to get right back to the show, but first I wanted to tell you about the game changer for your audio setup. Of course, it's the one and only Shure SM7B microphone. This iconic beauty is a go-to for top-notch podcasts. You've seen it on stream. It's the perfect microphone for any environment. You don't need a fancy studio. It's got built-in protection that handles background noise like a pro. Jim and I love ours, and you can level up your audio game today. Just check out the show notes for the links. Now back to the show.
Really, like, the heart of how I create products. That one feature alone really shows you what I think about. And I've had a lot of developers, a lot of really smart people start using Magi, and they're like, well, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? And the reason why I don't add a bunch of crazy technical features that are great for like engineers and developers is because I build products for the person who isn't a developer, who isn't a prompt engineer, and who doesn't have time to go learn all of these highly advanced techniques. I want to build a product that Joe, somebody off the street who's never used AI in his life, can come in and start using it right away. And that one prompt enhance button, it's built for exactly that. It's for the image generator, and it allows you to put in a very simple prompt and hit the button, and the AI will use all of its trained knowledge on what a good image prompt is and add tons of beautiful detail for you. And you can then, modify it as needed. That's really the heart of Magi, to democratize AI, if I can steal Canva's killer marketing campaign from back.
He was thinking about me, Chris, because I wouldn't have been able to do all that stuff.
Can you enhance your prompt to have it like eating crayons like a Marine? Is that like part of the enhancement process? Dustin's like, what are you talking about?
Well, you know what? Now I might have to go into the image thing and try to create something with that in mind, Chris.
Eating crayons. No, I think that's like the most amazing part is it's not just, it's like so much of it is about prompting, right? And it's like, give me an image that's cool about podcasters that has this vibe and here's my colors, right? It's like sort of like stock or whatever. And that might not be the right way to go about it. Like certainly the colors, and whatnot. but like understanding how to prompt these models, to understanding how to, and each one of them is different, right? Am I to understand that properly? Like Runway is different than Leonardo and ChatGPT is different than all of these other things. And so understanding how, what it likes, what it does to actually animate the things you want to animate, as opposed to it not doing that is key to this whole thing is prompting. And so that feature alone for me is like a huge time saver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, going back to this idea of exploration, like you would never know which model is better than the other or which strengths and weaknesses a given model has unless you tried it or unless you read the blog post that I wrote about it. Right. But again, experimentation is key. So having these different AI models, and it's most apparent with the image models, right? With the chat models, it's a little more difficult to see which one's better at X, Y, Z and which one's better at ABC. But with the image models, it's very clear. You ask it for something realistic. DALL-E doesn't do a good job. Another one doesn't do a good job, but then you use Flux and you're like, oh my gosh, this looks real. And then you tell Flux to do something that's impressionistic or abstract. And you're like, I don't know. And then you give it to DALL-E and you're like, oh wow, DALL-E nailed it. So you get to figure out what these different models are really good at so you can use the right tool for the right job.
Is there a resource for things like that? Like, so if I'm a Magi subscriber, I know that there's a Facebook group. Like, are there places where I can say, okay, I want to work on persona modeling, or I want to understand the differences between, like you talked about DALL-E versus, all of these others, are there resources that you make available to Magi subscribers or maybe to the public?
Yeah. So I try to continually update our blog with new research and trainings. It's a little hard, cause we're still a small team and I'm wearing a lot of the hats still, but doing my best to create that educational content as best as I can. The other place is our help center. So we're going through a process of going meticulously through every feature in the app and creating new training videos on how to use them, because the app has changed so much in the last 6 to 12 months. We've added new stuff and so a lot of the old stuff is obsolete. But on top of that, inside your dashboard, if you're a Magi user, you'll see that you now have access to something called the AI Academy. Yes. And the AI Academy is a hub of great AI training content, not exclusively about Magi, but we partnered with the AI Academy. The creator of that his name is Steve Dotto. And Steve invited me in to partner with him. So all Magi users get free access to his community, his hub of training resources. And every single week on Wednesday, we go live with a new training topic, and we'll dive real deep into whatever the topic of that day is and allow the people who are there live get to ask questions, and we'll answer those questions in real time. And so that library of content is just built up, and it continues to build up every single week.
Does that also, Dustin, does that apply to your team members? If you're like the owner of the account, do they get access to that as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you are an active Magi user, you get free access to the Academy.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about this, and we talked earlier about this, is because, a lot of this AI stuff is so fun. Honestly, it's a blast to be able to create your alternate persona, to animate my thumbnails. Like, there's a lot of stuff, and I start to see this stuff, and then the more I get into it, the more I'm starting to discern what are practical uses versus what is just am I just playing here, right? And so you, Dustin, have this, overarching visibility to everybody that's using platforms, not only just through Magi, but probably in general. You're seeing what everybody's doing. A lot of our listeners, a lot of our viewers are podcasters, live streamers, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and they look at this kind of stuff and they're like, okay, this is cool, but am I just jumping into a playground here to do this stuff, or are there really practical uses for my live stream, for my podcast? And so are there any maybe case studies, examples that you have of Magi members or examples that you can point to where they're utilizing some of these platforms more than just like, here's my transcript, spit out some show notes. That kind of stuff is cool. And yes, of course, we use that. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, like everything you see on this show right here was all created with Magi. I did that purposely. So if you're seeing any of the show notes, the thumbnails, all of that stuff, we did that because like we want to show it to you. So if you're watching the show, you can kind of see, okay, these guys used this. Yeah, we cobbled in a little other stuff. But back to the question, Dustin, what are maybe some specific sort of practical ways that a podcaster or a live streamer can utilize Magi properly?
I mean, there's so many ways and so little time. But I'll try and keep it specific to, what I think your audience is familiar with, podcasting you mentioned. We have many podcasting companies, podcast production companies that use Magi regularly. And they do exactly what you said. They'll take the transcript from a podcast recording and they'll turn it into show notes. But then they'll take that also and then turn it into a full-on blog post based on that, which is, as a marketer, I've told every podcaster to do for the last 12 years, turn those into actual blog posts for SEO. But on top of that, then turning that into social content that you can then drip out throughout the week or throughout the month. So AI is really good at taking content and repurposing it in many different avenues. And so that's a huge use case. It can't be understated. A lot of people use it for that. And bloggers, podcasters, YouTubers. So we have a lot of YouTubers use us because we have this feature where if you paste a YouTube video link into the chat, Magi will recognize that it's a YouTube link. And before it sends it off to the LLM, Magi is going to go fetch the transcript from that YouTube video and attach it to your prompt so that the AI that you pass it off to knows everything that's said in that YouTube video. So then you can then, easily start doing stuff with your YouTube videos.
Wait, you just made everything like that. Here we are 46 minutes into the show, Dustin, and you just gave me are you serious right now? So in a new chat, if I paste a YouTube link, it pulls in the transcript from the YouTube video.
Automatically.
Wow. Oh my God. All right.
Yep. Yeah. And in the same way, if you post a web link to any public web page, the same thing happens. Magi recognizes this is a web page, probably want all the content from that page to be included in the context. And so it will attach it to your prompt. And this makes it super easy to say, hey, give me feedback on this landing page. How can I make this landing page copy better? And all you have to do is paste a link. You don't have to go over to the web page, drag and copy all the text and paste it over and hope it works. No, you just drop a link in there. Magi knows.
Or for me, like I'm pulling it into another program like Descript, and I'm exporting the transcript and I'm attaching it to ChatGPT and from the attachment, utilize, here's the oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah, that one feature is huge. The YouTube one. And here's another use case. So, I love following business practitioners and I love following the latest advice from, marketing strategists and stuff. And so I'll watch a YouTube video where they outline this brilliant process or this brilliant campaign strategy. And I'll be like, oh my gosh, I want to do that. And so instead of me having to go take notes throughout the video, because I'm terrible at taking notes anyways, I just grab the YouTube link, pop it into Magi and say, hey, write out a strategy based on this video and then list out all the steps I need to take and who I need to send it to on my team.
Which model do you use specifically for that? Is there one that you would say does it better than others?
So for something like that, I use GPT-4. And the reason I use GPT-4 for that is because GPT-4 is the best at structured output. So list and styling things and formatting, it's the best at that. But when it comes to copywriting, I'm a big fan of Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So if I were actually writing marketing copy, I would switch over from GPT-4 and say, okay, let's start writing the copy for this.
Wow. See, Chris is taking notes over there.
Oh, yeah. I'm taking. I don't know why I'm taking notes. All I got to do is feed it into Magi, and it's going to tell me what that is.
The Steve LinkedIn length is done.
Right. God. Oh man, that's killer. So let's talk. Let's pivot a little bit off of this because I'm already like I can't wait for the show to end so I can go and start utilizing. No, I'm start utilizing this stuff. So you're someone that obviously has to use these things. Like you're not, and you so that you can recommend things. Like I've seen videos where you're like, hey, because some of them you have to attenuate 1 through 5, like how it should model, and you'll say, I found the sweet spot is 2 on a scale of 1 to 5, because if you give it too much, it's going to be too built in, and it's not going to give you the animation that you want, and so you're really going in and you're testing these things all of the time. But I know you're also a family man. You also, have a lot going on, and you prioritize that over what you're doing. So I appreciate that as a human being, because I know, this is a great program, but I also love to follow people like yourself that have their head on straight, as far as like, hey, I dropped my kids off, I brought my kids back from school, so I'm cool. I can do this show, and prioritizing your life, your faith, everything that you've got going on, I think it's super important that you're doing. But I really wanted to tap into, because you're an expert in a lot of these different things. I really wanted to kind of find out from you, like, where do you see this going in the future? Like maybe some like emerging trends that you're seeing that are actually not, look at we just talked about, the new launch of Sora, like all of these things that are happening. Mm-hmm. Where do you see maybe overarching, maybe specific, get as specific or overarching as you want? Like, what do we do in a year from now?
So I think literally 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in my office. I think it was a Saturday morning. It might have been a Saturday morning. I try not to work on the weekends, but Saturday mornings are like when I feel I have like some free space to think, because it's not the grind of the week. And, like usually we made a big breakfast for my kids. We do pancakes and hash browns. I'm like, about to go to food coma from big breakfast. And so I've got some space to think, and I don't feel like, I need to get a bunch of tasks done. But I was thinking about this question, like, where is it going in the next year? We have all this talk about AGI, and I think, between you, me, and the folks watching, and the CIA listening in, I don't think there's a whole lot of reality to the AGI talks happening right now. And if you listen to a lot of the talk that specifically Sam Altman and his idea of AGI, the target keeps moving. He keeps kind of lowering the bar. And I think that's for good reason, because I think it's a much further away than we realize. But what I think is very close in the near future is these AI models are finally good enough to start doing tasks autonomously. So right now, they need a lot of human in the loop. You need a lot of checks and balances to see, make sure they're doing their job and make sure they're not blatantly lying to you, right? But I think they're just on the brink with this new model called O1 from OpenAI. They're thinking more thoughtfully about the things they do. And this kind of marks the age of where we can kind of trust them with a little bit more autonomy. And this is why on that Saturday morning, I, just kind of thinking forward, like, what do we need to do in this next season of Magi to bring our users the best of the best and really help them go into the future? And that is agents. So right now, people throw around the word AI agents kind of loosey-goosey. And I have a bit of a pet peeve about it, because I don't think they're talking about actual agents. To me, an AI agent is a AI model that can take action based on its own decision making and actually take action outside of the container that it's in. So right now in Magi, our personas, they can't really do anything outside the app. But very soon, probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to start adding these skills or actions to the AI models where you can tie them to things like Zapier, or you can tie them to things like Gmail, or tie them to, whenever you're YouTube account, whatever app. We're going to unlock this ability for them to make connections outside of the app and take control of whatever tasks that you give them the ability to take control of. And that will then lead into what I think the next phase of AI is autonomous workflows. So giving these AI agents the ability to not just do a task and take action, but pass the next step in the process off to the next persona or the next agent. So that then we start to have these autonomous workflows where we can give a set of AI agents an entire standard operating procedure and just let it go do it. And that's where I think 2025 is going to be that. I don't think we're going to get anywhere close to AGI, but the level of intelligence where these AI agents can accomplish things in a sequence without human supervision every step of the way. I think that's what we're going to see in 2025.
Yeah, I think I do agree with you. I think it will be interesting to see how much people trust that, right? I think, when someone hears that, it's like, it wasn't that many years ago when we thought, like, I don't want to put my credit card on the internet. Now it's like, hey, we're giving it away, like, we're walking through scanners that are, pulling down our CCV files, and whatever. And so I think, so that those walls are breaking down, and then there's security issues and all of that. But I think the agents that you're talking about, it's like, well, if it works, and you're like, okay, I've created this thing that I don't have to do myself, and the agents can do it for me. Yes. Is it replacing jobs? Absolutely. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Like when that happens, like, all of a sudden you're like, I want to book a flight. It's a prompt, and all of a sudden it's done, and you have a flight, and there wasn't a human involved in it. Yeah, and that's crazy. But
it is. And you mentioned the loss of jobs thing, which I think is totally legitimate. There are a lot of people this fear of like, am I going to get replaced by AI? And my answer to that is always not yet. AI is not going to replace you yet. Somebody using AI is going to replace you, or somebody using Magi to be honest, is going to replace you.
There we go. There we go.
But I think on top of that, when calculators were invented, we didn't lose the mathematicians, right? We didn't stop learning math. When calculators were invented, it freed us up to solve more complicated problems. And I think that's what AI is doing for us. It's going to allow us to offload some of the stuff that is just not necessary for us to spend so much time on, and free us up to do more important work, more difficult, more complex problems that haven't been solved yet. And so that's why I'm really excited about the future of AI.
I think too, one of the things, because people are always like, oh, my job's going to get replaced by this. But I think it kind of goes back to, but what are you doing to improve yourself? Because there's so many other things that AI can't do. I mean, like we're especially right now, right? AI is not going to come fix my toilet. It's not going to fix my electricity. Those are high paying jobs, but people are like, oh, but that's hard work.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem, not to go too far off top, but I think that's the whole thing is like, okay, if AI is coming, how do you embrace it to make yourself more, adaptable, flexible, because you can use it for a lot of good. I mean, I love the fact that, like we're talking about, if I am going to give a class or something, I say, okay, give me a outline for this topic. And like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I should add that into my outline. It doesn't mean it's going to write the whole, word for word what I'm going to say, but it gives me those things that, our brain's not as sharp as a computer in theory. So I think that's where people should look at it more that way, as opposed to, oh, it's going to replace my job, sort of a thing.
Absolutely. Supplemental is the word. It's a supplement to your current skill set.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have got to check out magi.co. If not, because Dustin Stout is just awesome as a human. But no, seriously. I mean, I don't know, honestly, how a creator doesn't have this, if I'm being completely honest, because I've tried, I went through this whole thing and I'm like, cancel the subscription. It's all of this stuff is in there. They're adding constant programs to this. So you can go in and there's tons of ones that I didn't even know even existed. And for me, and I shared this earlier, as well. I started playing around, with some of the stuff just to, but I'm using this for client work. So I'm doing an award show with one of the podcast clients that I have and I created an award. I animated the award. I'm adding it to the video for that. There's an example there. I started animating some of the thumbnails for some of the shows. Dustin, I shared that with you. These are DALL-E images that we created, some vertical images. You seem to be nodding or just maybe a little bit nervous in this image here, Dustin, which is like, I don't know what's going on right there. But, and so I'm learning as I'm going through this is like, okay, this doesn't quite look like me. So, and it's probably because I was looking to the side. So I'm starting to learn how to manipulate. Okay, when I feed in an image that I want to animate, I need the whole face, right? And I'm starting to understand how all this stuff works. But the only way, folks, to understand how all this stuff works is to get in and start, getting curious, start utilizing that stuff. And there's no better way than to do this with magi.co. Jim, I think you have a link. It might be an affiliate link.
It is.
And we're gonna put that in the show notes. Dustin, we're gonna roll it over to you. How should people connect with you other than going to magi.co? Is there a place? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Where do you like to hang out?
Well, as a former social media marketer, I'm on all the things. So you can find me on all the things. I'm at Dustin W. Stout on all of them.
Beautiful. At Dustin W. Stout on all the things. Ladies and gentlemen, please go check out magi.co. And as always, don't fear the gear.
Thanks for listening to Dealcasters. Congratulations. You've taken another step forward in your content creation journey. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe or follow button here in your favorite podcast player so you can be reminded every time we drop an episode.
We love hearing from our listeners and viewers. And if you're wanting to watch our shows live on Amazon, feel free to follow Dealcasters Live as well at dealcasters.live. Follow us on Twitter or subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we also included added content that you cannot find anywhere else.
If you have questions about this episode or have something you want us to review, you can also email us at dealcasters@dealcasters.live. Thanks again for listening, and you know the deal. Don't fear the gear.